Hey, welcome to another episode of C's Backyard Bees. Today we are getting ready to store our supers. So there's a lot of different ways that people store our super or store their supers. We go through a little bit of a process with ours, but I think it works overall. It kills any of the wax moths that might be in them. Also, we extract all our supers and then we put those wet frames back on, and those bees clear up all that dripping honey and stuff off of it. So what we do is we put those wet frames back on, we give the bees a couple days to clean them up, and then we're going to freeze them batch by batch to kill anything that might be in them. Those are the wax moths mainly in our area. And then we store them in totes inside for until it starts freezing outside, and then we can put them in our garage because they freeze continuously then. So come join us. I'm going to put bee escapes on to get all those bees out of there, to make it easier here in a couple days to start putting those frames in the freezer.
So we're just going to do the same process 3 times in a row. However, I just love the population in this hive. We take off that queen excluder and we can just see how many bees are in that second deep. That's just great. So what I'm doing is just taking off these empty supers, setting them aside just for a second, putting on the bee escape. And then before I put on that bee escape, I'm taking off the queen excluder if it's on it. That I have the queen excluder on them. That way I know that the queen is not up in those supers, so I can do this process super easily. The last thing that I'm doing is making sure that my supers are on that beakscape just perfectly, because if I'm leaving any gaps or anything like that, then I'm leaving a chance for robbing to occur as we're getting into the fall. I'm also putting those queen excluders right in front of their hive or right next to their hive, so it's easy for the bees to get right, to just go right back to their entrance.
All right, so it's been 24 hours, and those bee escapes will now have about 95 to 99% of those bees out. So just like extracting, I'm going to use a bee brush in order to get the rest of those super frames free of bees. So I'm going to take these supers off and then just head to the far side of the yard in order to brush those bees off. This process wants to be quick because the longer you have bee stuff out, the more bees you attract. So my goal is to get all 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 supers done, but I'm also on a timeline of daycare today. So let's see how far we can get.
So this is another repeat the process piece. So what I'm going to do is take off all the wax that is on the top of the frames and then on the bottom of the frames, and then I'm going to break each of those frames loose using my hive tool. That way it's super quick to pull the frames out, brush the bees off with a bee brush, and then put them in the bin. This process is great with 2 people because one person can be putting those frames in the bin and kind of managing. What ended up happening is that bin that I'm putting these frames into that had a little gap with the lid, and I ended up bringing a bunch of bees into the garage, which is just something that you have to deal with.
All right, so the next part of the process is getting all these frames into the freezer. And like I said earlier, we're going to freeze them for about 2 days. This is just in case any wax moths or anything that we don't want in there that are on the frames are going to die. And then we're going to store them into the clear bins inside until winter, because what we want is insects and those kind of things don't like light, right? So the more light that we can give them, the better off they are. When they're in the house, I can monitor them a little better. If we have some kind of resemblance of a wax moth or something not looking right, I can freeze them again, and we can get ahead of that. That way, those wax moths don't destroy all of our wax. Wax moths like brood comb, which a lot of the times won't be a problem in your supers. However, I do have some super frames that they did lay in this year as we were trying to keep them from swarming. So I'm going to put as many frames as I can fit into our little tiny freezer, and then leave them for 2 days and repeat this process. All right, with a little creativity, I was able to fit 36 frames into this freezer. So I'm going to give them 2, 3 days because those frames are awfully hot from sitting in the garage. 2, 3 days to kind of freeze, kill anything that's on them, and then we'll switch them with the rest of the frames. Finally, after we freeze them, we put them into clear plastic bins. This is so light can penetrate the side of them. Wax moths do not like light. And then we store all these supers in our house until it starts getting freezing overnight. And then we store them in our garage because they freeze every night, so we don't have to worry about anything getting into them. So that is how we store our frames for the fall and winter. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I hope you learned something. Thanks for beekeeping with me today, and I will see you next time.